It has been a massively crazy year, 2024 for Tampa real estate. We have seen home sales up, we've seen home sales down, we've seen storms, and you need to stay in the loop. You need to know what's going on. If you're a homeowner or you're thinking about buying a home, you need to make sure to follow us because we will get you the information that you need about what is going on in Tampa Bay real estate. So again, at the Duncan Duo, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, every social out there. And then DuncanDuo.com. If you're someone that wants to know what's going on in your neighborhood, do you want to know if any of the homes that got flooded out enter into foreclosure? Do you want to know what's going on with the value of homes in your neighborhood? Do you want an instant cash offer? Whatever it is, if you're a homeowner, you should be subscribed to our home value checklist at DuncanDuo.com. Again, that is DuncanDuo.com. You can do it quickly on your phone. You can also text us at 813-359-8990. So I want to talk about something that I put out on my socials a few days ago. It really correlates well with the election. If you saw from the election, the mass media clearly was pretty far off. They were all predicting a Kamala Harris victory. The polls were all off except for a few that nailed it, that didn't get much publication. What it made me think about was how often I see national news stories about real estate and how far off they are. So if you pay attention to the national news, one thing you have to understand about the national news is it's meant to do one of two things, either to keep eyes on it to sell headlines or to convince you that their viewpoint is right. So it's why if you look at multiple different news sources, you'll see them all have a different take on a particular item because they're not really reporting the news anymore. It's more or less opinion, or they're reporting an angle that they want to promote because that's what they align with. So when it comes to real estate, it's really important that you not pay attention to the national news. Again, because they're doing one of two things. They're either wanting to find a source or a piece of information that they can promote that does one of two things: keeps you watching, or it pushes a narrative. So when it comes to real estate, the best place to get real estate news and information is your local real estate agent. Obviously, in this instance, it would be my company. So following us on all of our social channels and going to our website and submitting your home. And there's multiple reasons why. The first one is because the local real estate agent like us, like the Duncan Duo team, we're in the trenches every day. Okay, so we're seeing what's happening in real time. We're looking at hits on our website. We're seeing monthly home sales. We're seeing how many homes cancel. And so when you extrapolate that nationally, a national trend might not apply locally. And also the data. One of the most common used sources of data for the national news sources is the Case-Shiller report. The Case-Shiller report, they're talking about home sales from the last quarter. They're talking about home sales from the third quarter. We're in the fourth quarter. Stuff that happened in August, especially in Tampa Bay right now, stuff that happened in August, it's a whole other world. It's a whole other planet. It's not even relevant because we just got hit with two storms and of course, the chaos from the election. So the point I want to make to you is when it comes to the news source, obviously most people have now, I think if you look at accurate polling data, there's a massive distrust for the national mainstream media when it comes to reporting on politics because they've had it wrong so many times and because it's been so clear they're biased. Well, pretty much everything becomes politics in one way or another. Everything is an angle. So when it comes to real estate, I want you to have that same distrust for whatever you see come out from the national media simply because it's got an angle. It's biased, or it's old data, or it's national data. And national data isn't relevant for Tampa Bay. New York may have had a great summer. They didn't really, but another state may have had a great summer for real estate, and it makes the national statistics look a little bit off. Look at national real estate statistics and you apply them to a local market. That would be like saying the high temperature today in the United States of America is 73 degrees. We know that's not the case. We know the high temperature varies all over the country, and it's the same thing with the real estate market. But the mainstream media gets it wrong so often. I used to think that they got it wrong because they were misinformed or they didn't understand. Now I think they get it wrong on purpose. They get it wrong on purpose because it's meant to get clicks, it's meant to get attention, or it's meant to push a narrative. So when it comes to real estate, when you see these national mainstream media people come out with news about real estate, discard it for the most part. It's irrelevant. It's either meant to push you in a certain direction, it's meant to get more clicks, it's old data, or it's national data that doesn't apply locally to your home. I've seen so many people come to us and say things like, I saw in the news that the home sales are down, or I saw in the news that home sales are up. And it's completely contradictory to what's happening in Tampa Bay, because they're getting their news from Fox or CNBC or MSNBC or CNN. Unfortunately, some people go there. So the reality is that when it comes to real estate, the best source of information is going to be the local real estate agent. They're going to have the most up-to-date, accurate information. They're looking at the MLS stats every day, and they're looking at it to give you the best advice possible to help them in their business, but help you make decisions, not for clickbait and not because they want to push a narrative. Because whether home sales are up or home sales are down, real estate agents profit and prosper either way. They simply pivot in one direction or another, especially the best ones like my team. When the market is super hot, we're representing a lot of buyers. Home prices are rising. We're getting bidding wars. We're selling homes. A lot of homes. When home sales are down, we're pivoting and looking at things like, hey, where can we make proper investments? Can we buy more investment properties? Can we help more investors take advantage of this little lull period? We're simply pivoting. So market up or market down, to someone like my team, it really doesn't matter. We're pivoting and then positioning our clients in the best possible position no matter what is happening. So that's really kind of my take on people that watch the news. If they got politics, as much money as goes into political campaigns. I think I saw that Harris Wall's campaign had $1 billion spent, and President Trump, I think, had maybe $350 million, so maybe a third of what they spent. The reality is, if you look at how much money goes into that, how much media went out about it, and how wrong they were, the real estate market is a small sliver of the things that they report on. There's not nearly as much money going into it. And if they sells their services the most that wrong, how off are they when it comes to a news type that doesn't have nearly as much attention or money spent on it? I'm telling you, don't pay attention to the national news when it comes to real estate. They're wrong. They're wrong all the time. People make decisions based on it. And what they really need to do is, if they're weighing the idea of buying or selling, they need to talk to a great local real estate team like ours. They need to look at the data that's current. They need to look at what's going on in their neighborhood. Everything else is mostly irrelevant. Everything else is mostly irrelevant. It just is. Looks like we dodged another storm. A lot of my prepping for today's show was going to be reminding people about some of the storm prep they need to take care of, because it looked like we were going to have another one, and now it seems to have turned, and hopefully that means the hurricane season is over. But think of the lessons that happened this hurricane season that it taught you. And what it taught me was that more and more customers, even if not required by their lender, need flood insurance. Even if FEMA, who has no clue what they're doing, says that a property needs flood insurance. The whole premise for how FEMA picks and decides what needs and doesn't need flood insurance is the craziest thing. It makes absolutely no sense. Do not trust them. Now, your flood insurance will be cheaper if you're not in a flood zone and your elevation is a certain point, but that doesn't mean you're more or less likely to flood. It's why thousands of people in Tampa Bay didn't have flood insurance or were in flood zone X and got flooded anyway. We are a peninsula, especially like South Tampa. I mean, it's even a peninsula within a peninsula. Like, if you are in an area near the water, AKA our whole area, you should have flood insurance. And fortunately, if you didn't get hit this time, maybe the next one is the one that does, because there are countless customers out there that lost everything from this storm that didn't have proper flood insurance. So I want to encourage everyone out there, if you don't have flood insurance, look into it, look into the pricing, ask yourself, can you afford it? And ask yourself, can you afford not to have it if something happens? And those are the determining factors. Can you afford it? And then can you afford not to have it? Because so many people didn't have it and have lost everything. So I really want you to spend this non-hurricane season, after we get past, I think, a cold front's coming in. We're not going to have hurricanes. It looks like, hopefully, we've got a couple weeks left, but the likelihood is that we're out of hurricane season. We're going to get a little chillier, and then it becomes much less likely. So if that's the case, use this off season, save up maybe if you can't. Obviously, we know that flooding is much less likely during non-hurricane season, so you have a little bit of time. But don't wait till the last minute. Don't wait until storms start popping out in the Gulf and in the ocean. Get flood insurance now. Do the research. Talk to some insurance agents. I can't recommend it enough. I took too many phone calls over the last month, spoke to too many people that lost it all simply because they didn't want to spend a few $100 a month. I mean, we're talking a couple of Starbucks trips, and to save hundreds of thousands of dollars, possibly, should you get hit, is a massive risk that, way too many people have.